Imagine, beloved, imagine who you would be if you were to allow God to use you fully in His hand. Imagine who you would be if you were to surrender yourself fully to God and allow Him to access your hidden or your latent potential and energies naturally residing within your soul, within your spirit, for you to be and to do whom God originally created you to be. When you look at the life of Paul, you see a man who had great intellectual capacity and great energy to pursue what he believed or thought was right. And even though his energies were misplaced, even though his intellect was misplaced in following the incorrect theories that he were taught or that were inculcated to him through his association as a Pharisee, you see how God was able to stop him in his tracks and redirect his energies, and you can see who Paul ultimately was able to become. You see who Paul was able to be based upon him actually fulfilling and living up to his potential. When you look at the life of Paul, beloved, you are to see your life. You are to see your life. You are to see yourself being whom God would have you to be, because you have now surrendered yourself to Him. You are seeing who you could be based upon the power of God flowing through your life. And this is why we say that God has a plan for your life. And the plan of God for your life, for your existence, for your spirituality, for your relationship with Him will never be a mediocre plan. God has great things in store for you because you have great potential. When you read in Matthew chapter 17 verse 14 to 21, coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration, we read, "And when they were come to the multitude, there came to him a certain man kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is lunatic and sore vexed. For oftentimes he falleth into the fire and oft into the water. And they brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me." The man was disappointed, and Christ was disappointed because the disciples had the potential to cure this man's son of his ailment of demon possession. So the potential was within the disciples because the power was made available to them by God. The power was made available to them by Christ. And so, beloved, when we do not live up to the potential and the plan that God has for our life, some other life suffers as a result. So our act of playing small, our act of accepting spiritual mediocrity, our act of accepting church membership or exchanging spiritual power for simple spiritual existence, which is church membership, it threatens the life of another soul. It threatens the life of a society. It threatens the life of a nation, beloved, because God needs you and I to be active workers in His vineyard. God needs you and I to be live batteries, to be living connections that His power can flow through. So here we have this man, his son is in a terrible state, and how discouraged would he have felt when the disciples could not cast him out. But thank God for Jesus. And Christ continues, and Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief. Beloved, if you do not believe that God has a plan for your life, that God has a special purpose for you to fulfill, if you do not believe that God's power can flow through you and you can reach your fullest potential in Christ Jesus, you will not be able to be whom He created you to be. So your unbelief limits your spiritual potential. The limitation is not at God's door. The fault lies not at God's door. The fault lies at our door, beloved. And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. So your belief in God's plan for your life is a belief in your hidden potential. It's a belief in your unrecognized potential. It is a belief in a reality that could be and that can be only if you allow it to be, by believing and by cooperating with God's divine purposes for your life, by praying and fasting for it. Because if it is worth it, if living up to your potential is worth it, if living up to your potential in Christ Jesus and the plan that God has for your life is worth it, you will pray and you will fast for that power, because this is the only way that it is released. We have to pray and fast for it. We have to cleanse our soul temple from the defilement of sin, so that we can become channels and conduits of God's power in our life. If it is worth it, beloved, if you being whom God created you to be and living up to your fullest potential is worth it, you will pray and fast for it, and then you will see the mighty working power of God in your life. You will see yourself not as you see yourself. You would see yourself how God sees you and whom God originally created you to be. This is a profound and a powerful thing, beloved, to recognize that our potential is limited by our belief. So unshackle your life today from the cage or the chains of spiritual mediocrity through prayer, through fasting, and simply believing in what God says and whom God says that you can be, because you are more than a conqueror. This is the Word of Life with Andre Knight.